Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. A little bit of a spoiler alert. We're actually rebranding the podcast and starting next week with kind of an intermix of episodes where we are renaming the podcast Find My Catalyst. Find My Catalyst. This week, Jeff Noel joins me. And for those of you who've been listening for a while, you know Jeff. He's been on a number of different times. And we have one of those amazing conversations where we cover a lot of ground. We talk about balance. We talk about hell. We talk about preparation. Talk about scary things, and we talk about gratitude. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Let's get to the discussion. Jeff Noel, it is awesome, but not only to hear you, but also see you. And I know not everybody else gets to see you, but I get to see you on this occasion. Usually when we're talking to each other, both of us are on a walk someplace describing something to each other where we don't have the visuals in the background. And now I actually get to see you. How are you doing?
I am so amazingly blessed to be here today, as we all are. And I'm in a place where every day I remind myself of that very fact that this day is a gift. I know it's cliche, and that's why we don't focus on it, because it's just hard day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year to think today's a gift. But it's like anything else. If you get in the habit of doing it, you do it and you don't even know you're doing it. So you can actually wake up and be grateful all day about having today that you don't even know you're doing it. And that's the coolest thing.
It is one of the coolest parts about having conversations with you, whether it's direct conversations that we have, or it's just you being in my head when I listen to your podcast. And I forget, are there any If Disney Ran Your Life episodes out there and anymore, or did all of those get pulled?
100 episodes over the course of 2 years with Jody Mayberry, Disney Ran Your Life. It is about everything matters. Nothing is optional, but yet it's not for a moment prescriptive. And it is setting the bar to the highest level for your mind, your body, your spirit, your work, and your home. There are 7 seasons. And no, there are 9 seasons. 9 seasons. Most of the seasons are about 10 or 11 episodes. The final season, 9, is only 5 episodes. I'm telling you all of that to say there are 100 episodes total. There's an arc to this whole thing. What is online right now, Mike, to answer your question, is the final season, which is the conclusion that balance is not a myth. There are 4 content episodes, and there's a wild card episode from Glacier National Park where Jody and I, it's our favorite national park. And we've both been to many national parks, and it's hands down our favorite. And we recorded an episode there.
We will include
so those
links.
are free, and those are available for download. At some point, I don't know that I'll ever put them up for public consumption. I'm in the process of figuring out how to use it as an asset for organizations that I work with. Every organization that I work with, I'm talking to them about Disney principles, about balancing leadership, employee culture, customer service, brand loyalty, and creativity and innovation. And that content is what I do. That's my intellectual property. And it's what I get paid to do. This personal vibrancy content in the podcast, Mike, could be a paid for opportunity for organizations that they get me for leadership or customer service or creativity and innovation. And they say, we'd also like to hear your message or have your message available for everyone in our organization, because we, like you, agree balance is not a myth and nobody knows where to go to be led in a direction. People will make it nothing prescriptive, but I offer content that really stimulates why most of us have a bar that's set ridiculously low. So I think that's what we might be talking about today, actually.
Well, and it's kind of funny because we debated. We were like, well, do we want to do this in October and do a scary something? Or do we want to do it in November and talk about gratitude and reflection? And then October 31st is an important day to Jeff. That was the day that he left his former employer, which he's mentioned a couple of different times. And how many years ago was that?
It was 7 years ago. And it was my last day at Disney after 30 years. I wanted to be able to say, yeah, I retired from Disney after 30 years. It was really scary to leave.
So if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you've heard Jeff a couple of times. He's been on for the first Noel, the second Noel. I think this coming up in December, we're going to get the third Noel on here, which is just a play on Jeff's last name. What Jeff does for me, every time we have a conversation, I think differently about something, whatever it is. And I don't even know what it is that I'm going to be thinking differently about before we go into the discussion, but I walk away thinking differently about something. And one of my favorite Jeff-isms, things that he repeats often, is when you change what you see changes. And it highlights to me the importance of shifting perspective. And if you can take the time to just make that subtle shift in perspective, so many more things can open up to you. So I wanted to have Jeff on, and we're going to kind of bridge. This is like a tweener episode where we're, like not really in that early, or those early ages, but we're not really a full teenager yet. And we've not moved on into adulthood. And one of the topics that you mentioned was the idea of balance and whether or not it's a myth. And so why is it that people are scared? Is it scary to believe that balance is possible? Why is it scary to believe that balance is possible?
Mike, it's obvious to you and I, there is nothing scripted about this. There was no preparation other than we were going to talk about something scary like balance. I didn't know you were going to offer up this Jeffism. And while you were saying it, it sounds so cliche, like every day's a gift. It sounds so watered down and so almost ridiculously like eye rolling when you change what you see changes. And I thought, what I ought to do is add context to where I believe that came from. I think a lot of thoughts. I don't write down or memorize when a thought comes into my head. I'm a thinker. That's really what I do. That's my profession. I think, and as a gift, as an art, I help other people think differently about everything. Jody Mayberry and I, we've spent the last 4 summers visiting Glacier National Park together. In one of those trips, I don't remember which trip it was. It probably wasn't even the first one. It might have been the second. We hike 10, 12 miles a day, and we like to go way in the backcountry where we don't see anybody for the whole day and hope that we will see a grizzly bear or two or some bighorn sheep or other things. And certain times of the year, flowers are everywhere. Later in the season, the flowers sort of are done blooming, and then the leaves on all the bushes and everything start changing colors. It's like the flowers pass the baton to the leaves. We are hiking and we are looking at all these beautiful flowers, and we're remarking about the Indian paintbrush, the red Indian paintbrush, and the sort of fuchsia, purplish fireweed, which is just prolific, and the bear grass and other things, and the glacier lilies. And when you hike for 12 miles on a trail, Mike, you're looking around, but sometimes you really got to focus on the trail where you're going, because if you slip, you're going to die. And sometimes Jody leads and sometimes I lead. And we might lead for a mile or two and then we'll switch. And while we were walking, we were just commenting on all these flowers, all these beautiful flowers. And then I stopped. I said, Jody, look at this. And it was the shadow of one of the flowers on one of the rocks on the trail. I said, Jody, look at this shadow. How cool is that? And then we started looking, and the shadows of the flowers are everywhere. They are everywhere. And we are walking on for 12 miles and never seeing a single shadow because all we are looking at are the flowers. And it was a really cool, it was just one single flower on this rock. It was just stunningly simple. But once I got exposed to that, like I started looking at all the shadows, and here's what happened. When I started looking at the shadows, I started to not be able to not see the shadows. All I saw were the flowers and the shadows. And this wasn't a book. I didn't read some famous person's book. It was me and Jody hiking. And here's why that is an important context. Everybody looks at balance as a myth. That's the flower. Everybody looks at the flowers. Everybody looks at balance. When you look at balance, all you see is myth. And when you change what you see changes. And if you start looking at the shadow of balance, balance is not a myth. That's what's on the ground that is, you're walking right past it. It's in front of you. all day, every day, and you walk right by it and you don't even notice it. But if you started to notice that balance is not a myth, all you see is balance is not a myth. And that changes everything.
What it does for me, Jeff, and you highlight this a couple of times, not only in the conversations that we've had, in the information that you share out in the marketplace, and I'm sure you do this with customers as well, it's things can sound interesting. They can make you smile. They can make you nod. They can make you say, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But then there's a whole group of people out there who will never put that idea or thought into practice because they will just continue to look at the flowers. They'll continue to look at the flowers. They'll continue to look at the flowers. And I think the piece that does it for me around it, and this goes back to a Disney thing, but what's the saying? It's not the work that makes it magic. It's the magic that makes it work. Am I remembering that right? Is that a Disney thing? And again, this is not scripted.
It's not the magic that makes it work. It's the work that makes it magic.
It's the work that makes it magic. Thank you. So, but there's work that has to happen. Like none of this matters if you don't take the step, if you don't start doing, if you don't put it into practice, if you don't engage and then reflect and then think about what has worked and then assess what you're doing and then work and go forward. Because a lot of people can talk about this stuff and everybody kind of nods and whatnot, but there aren't a lot. What I see out there is there aren't a lot of people who actually go out and do it because, and I don't know why. I'll ask you the question. Why do people not put things into practice? Why do people just look at the flowers rather than realize, hey, there's some shadows out there?
Because of three things. We are medicated, entertained, and distracted. And because it's just the easiest thing to do. And everybody's doing it. It's like the three little pigs fable. The one pig just toiled away, built his house out of stone. And the other two pigs, straw and sticks or something. And then the big bad wolf, which is life, right? Things that happen in life. That's the big bad wolf, comes and knocks the house down and disrupts everything because those two pigs weren't focused on, hey, the wolf is coming. Be prepared. And if you prepare, you don't stop the wolf from coming. It's just the wolf is not going to destroy you and destroy what you built. It might bother you and threaten you, but it's not getting in.
So another one of the things that we had talked about when we were chatting around, we were kind of debating what to talk about, was this whole idea of, can you be thankful or find gratitude in some horrible things that happen, horrible events, horrible challenges? And I don't have my notes right in front of me, so I'm kind of paraphrasing that part of the conversation. I ran into a challenge a couple months back, and I was, for those of you know, I walk the golf course. I try to walk the golf course on a daily as a daily practice. And, sometimes in the middle of the summer in Phoenix, it gets to 115, 117 degrees. I'm walking in the same shoes. You can imagine how nasty those shoes get. Anyhow, athlete's foot knocked me down, and it made it so that I couldn't walk the golf course. I had to take a break. And Jeff and I had a conversation around the pain and what pain is an indicator of. But it turned into a story that you shared around foot pain. Can pain be something that you can be thankful for?
Is this talking about my friend Brian?
It's talking about your friend Brian. And if you're comfortable with it, if not, I can pull this piece out.
I just told this story. I walked with a neighbor before this podcast. I told this story about 30 minutes ago because we were talking about gratitude. Everybody's going through a hell nobody knows about. And some of us might even be in an additional place where we're about ready. In addition to the hell we're going through, we may have just come out of a hell that also nobody knew about. Multiple hells. We had two. Now we're down to one. But unbeknownst to us, another one may be coming. This is the wolf. This is the hell. Everybody's going through hell nobody knows about. That's the big bad wolf. And this neighbor that I was walking with was describing a hell that he is going through. And it is such a hell that his daughter-in-law may not be around in a couple of years. There are two things that she could have, and one of them gives her 2 to 4 years, and the other one might give her a lifetime, but she may end up being confined to a wheelchair. And and she's about 30 years old. So most of her life, everything's just been, good. That's a hell of a thing to have to deal with. I explained to him, we were talking about happiness and gratitude. And I said, I have found it impossible to be unhappy when I am grateful. And I said, hey, if you started a list at your house, you know how some people keep a crossword puzzle out on a table or something, and it's got 8,000 pieces or something, and it might take a long, they keep it out. I said, so whether you do it digitally on your phone, make a list, or if you had a tablet or a booklet at your house and you just kept it out open, I said, and if you entitled this list, I am grateful for ... I said, how long could you go before you wouldn't have anything to write? And he goes, I don't know if I could ever stop finding things to be grateful for. I said, I was going to tell you that's what I believe, but I wanted to ask you because if you say it to somebody, they're like, yeah, I can be grateful for everything, an endless list of things to be grateful for. But honestly, you can. You can. Because if you really think about it, if you change what you see, you start seeing things that are just mind-bogglingly good, literally everything in your life. So anyway, I'm going down this path, Mike. And the story that I shared with him is I said, dude, I've been a runner all my life. Got high arches. I stand a lot as a teacher. I have had chronic foot pain for the last 15, 20 years. And early in this journey, I was just whining and complaining about my sore feet. And a colleague at the Disney Institute, I spent 30 years at Disney, 15 in hotel operations. Started out as a jungle cruise skipper, driving a boat on a track with a straw hat and a polyester costume and a college degree.
I think they made a movie about it recently, right?
Yeah. And got into hotel operations to have a career. I did 15 years at Disney in hotel operations, and then the last 15 years at Disney Institute, where my job is to help outsiders understand how Disney does leadership, employee culture, customer service, and so on. And Disney, for the longest time, has always had this sort of show aspect image that we were trying to preserve. And we started getting into diversity as one of our core values. And what that meant is diversity in everything. And there was a time where if you didn't look a certain way, we wouldn't have a costume that would fit you. And if you didn't fit in the costume range, we could hire you, but you would never work on stage because you weren't part of what the show was prescribed to be. We started expanding our sizes of costumes. And then we even went as far as saying, look, if even with our expanded costume sizes, if we don't have anything that fits you, we'll tailor make costumes that'll fit only you. So we dramatically changed the way we looked at who we were hiring, including my friend Brian, who when he was 9 years old, he's in his late 50s, just had a birthday Friday, which was 3 or 4 days ago. When he was 9 years old, he became a colleague of mine at Disney Institute, up on a stage, talking to 500 people, 1,000 people, 1,500 people about customer service or whatever. He's up on a stage. Well, when he was 9 years old, he was in a car accident. And he lost his mother, his grandmother, and both of his legs. So here's a guy in a wheelchair up on a stage talking about Disney customer service. We've come a long way, Mickey. I was whining and complaining about my sore feet, and I had this epiphany. Jeff, shut the hell up. I might have even told this story on another episode that we did on something else. I feel like I have, because this is such a seminal moment in my life. Is I realized I was nobody was saying anything. It was a blind spot. I was always complaining about how sore my feet were. And I had this epiphany, Mike. I said, Jeff, shut up. Do you know what Brian would give to have sore feet to complain about? You act like it's the end of the world. And if he had sore feet to live with for the rest of his life, it would be the greatest gift he ever got. When you change what you see changes. Dude, I'm telling you, when I started getting into the habit, because initially it's clunky because you don't think like this. I'm not used to looking at shadows all the time. And now I look at shadows everywhere. I look at them on the highway. I look at them in my yard, on my desk right now, I can see shadows. Mike, there is an endless supply of things to be grateful for. We just have to decide are we going to choose to see them? Which is something to be grateful for, to have this struggle is, do I want to go this way or do I want to just do what everybody else does? Because it's harder work. Be grateful for the harder work. Be grateful that there's stones to build your house out of rather than just sticks and straw, right? Be grateful for that.
I am grateful to have a friend like you. Thank you for doing this. I know we had said we were going to try to keep this thing to 25 minutes. I'm a little bit over on my 25-minute mark based on what I'm seeing on the clock.
Way.
So we're going
to go 25 minutes already. Did we?
We're going to wrap it up. As we wrap it up, I want to do a couple of things. One, I want to make sure people know where to find you today. You have 5 blogs that you have published daily for an extended period of time. And we've had Jody on here talking before about his 10,000 foot or 10,000 step link that he's been going and keeping this record moving along. How many years have you been writing and posting your 5 blogs on a daily basis?
So I'll be finishing up my 13th year and starting my 14th year. It's over 24,000 blog posts, 5 a day, every day, without missing a day, for whatever 13 years times 365 is. And then you multiply that by 5 because there's 5 a day, and that's how you get over 24,000. And, I don't tell anybody, Mike, that I do this. I initially did because I thought it was going to make me famous, but then I realized that is a dumb thing to even wish for. I'm the unofficial world record holder for the most blog posts by a single author. And I was telling somebody, nobody cares. If I said, but I don't have enough word count. And Guinness said you got to have 200 words minimum per blog post. And I don't even get anywhere close to that. And initially, I'm like, oh, well, that stinks. I'm not going to be the official world record holder. But unofficially, you can't say that those 24,000 blog posts don't exist. So technically, I have the most blog posts, not by that criteria that Guinness says. But I realized when I'm talking to a client, if they want to hire me, and maybe I'm one of the top 2, there's just between me and this other person, and they don't know if they want to hire her or they want to hire me. And I say, well, hey, I'm an unofficial world record or official world record holder for most blog posts. That's not going to seal the deal. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But here's the thing. I did it and I'm doing it. And I know I did it. And the discipline and focus and karma that you get by waking up every day and thinking about, what did I learn yesterday? What do I get to do today? And what do I hope for tomorrow? In 5 categories. What did I learn yesterday about my attitude? What do I get to do today with my attitude? What do I hope for tomorrow with my attitude? And then repeat that same step from my physical health, my spiritual well-being, my work, and my home. And it's like, you start doing that, you start doing the reps. That's why I'm an expert on balance, because I've done the reps and I continue to do the reps.
Yeah, you continue to do the work. You continue to do the reps.
There's the secret when you change what you see. The long way is the shortcut, Mike. Yeah.
Jeff, it is...
You want something, do the reps.
It is your Jeffisms implant themselves in so many people's heads. I was talking to Camille Clemens the other day about this, and she's like, Jeff is this little guide on the side that's in there that will just kind of pop up. So you're a guide to a number of people. And I know you're a guide to a number of organizations. I am going to get you back on the podcast to talk about that in more specific detail, because I think one of the things we want to do is just get into how and why do organizations work with you. And at that level, this has been more about how individuals can start putting into practice a number of the ideas that you've shared in the market, that you've inspired me to apply in the work that I do. Thank you again for the friendship. Thank you for doing this. I look forward to our next conversation. I'm going to wrap things up here and just say, if you know anybody who would enjoy this podcast or get value out of this conversation, please share it. Let Jeff and I know. We'll include links to his blog in the show notes. Sales is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about yours?
Mike, sorry. One last thing. You said, where can people find you? And I don't know if I've answered that question. You talked about the blogs, but I don't
add it in.
I don't direct anybody to the blogs. It's a personal thing that I do. There's no email collection. There's no funnel. There's no social sharing buttons. I do it because I love doing it and for what it does for me and how this exercise of doing this every day allows me to be better at my art of helping people think differently. But the one place where I would say socially is Twitter. I don't follow people on Twitter, but I post on Twitter. So it's Jeff Noel Midlife. If you want to I don't necessarily tweet every day. And some days I'll tweet 3 or 4 or 5 things. But everything that I tweet is I'm looking at the shadows. I'm thinking differently about something. A tweet that I just did this morning, like an hour ago, Mike, this is the kind of stuff that you can expect in my feed. If I could find it, right? Because the clock is ticking and I can't get my feed.
Well, you've got it. Actually, this is the first post outro discussion that we've had on the Catalysts. Actually, now it's Find My Catalyst podcast. And you didn't know that. We actually changed the name in, October, November-ish. It's good. We're in the process of changing the name. We're going to Find My Catalyst, but you found it. Go ahead.
So here's the tweet I did 1 hour ago. And I got to give you the context. I'm jogging through my neighborhood and one of the older neighbors is talking to one of the other neighbors who's my age. And they said,
Jeff, you're pretty old. Like, don't sell yourself short, man. Like
No, I got 6+ decades on my side. The magic of compound interest, man. It's almost unfair. You do the little things day in and day out. Just the cumulative effect of positive, healthy habits is stunning. And the cumulative effect of negative habits is also stunning. So change what you see, and what you see changes. So I'm jogging through the neighborhood and the oldest guy in the neighborhood goes, looking good. And I didn't know what to say. So I said, I do what I can. That's not what I wanted to say. And I felt like, oh, shoot, I'm jogging. I got my phone in my hand. And I said, I'm going to tweet what I wanted to say. And I don't know that I would have said this back to them across the yard, but I would have said something to this effect. And actually, after I did the tweet, I went back to them when I came back through the neighborhood, past the house. And I said, I got to share this tweet that you inspired me to do. And here's what it is. The universe, in all its infinite wisdom and mystery, gifted each of us with the temple housing everything keeping us alive. To park it on a sofa seems absurd.
That is awesome. I will not be parking this, for want of a better term, meat bag on a sofa later today. I will, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that tweet and I'm going to take a picture of me just before I won't take a picture of me. I'll take a picture of the area where I'm going to go run a little bit later today. Jeff, you are absolutely amazing. Thanks for being the first after the outro discussion. So this is a first for the podcast. And I want to close things out by saying happy present moment, another Jeffism.
Happy present moment.